Millennials, what's y'all plan for retirement? Before we start, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next videos. I wish you a pleasant viewing experience. Story 1. There is so much self-loathing in this thread. Why don't you guys work toward a career that will allow you to save for retirement instead of dooming? With a 60-80K job and living below your means, you don't have to live downtown in a trendy city. You can definitely save at least 10–15% of your income. Story 2. I'm just Delulu, so I'm still convinced I'm going to win the lotto at some point. Kidding. I have a ton of investments, stocks, bonds, crypto, ETFs that pay me, 401k at 15%, universal life insurance policy, no debt, old car, never buy new clothes. My only money spending is I live on the beach, so my area makes it easy to walk, and I love the ocean. I don't drink, so that's helpful, and my BF and I are homebodies, so we love being home with our pups. I know life sounds boring, but I'm not working past 50 and working hard now to make that happen. Story 3. Pay the house off by 60 years old. Move to a shoebox with a tin roof that can withstand a hurricane in lower Alabama. Pay for it outright with the proceeds from the house money. Use the remaining profit along with the money we have saved over the years to pay property taxes and keep a vehicle running. If Social Security is gone at that point, well, we'll just have to see when we get there. Story 4. Teach in Massachusetts for 30 years, then retire on 80% pension. Teachers around here can make 90–100K, and that's only going up. I'll never be living in Beverly Hills, but retirement is basically guaranteed. Thank God for teachers' unions. Story 5. Currently mentally preparing myself for life with no kids and staying single forever. Because why would I want to bring someone into this shithole world we've built? Hopefully, I'll have enough to retire in some other country that's cheap enough to where I no longer really have to worry about money. Then I just play video games until I keel over and die. Story 6. By 60, house will be paid off. 401k and IRA will have 30 years in them. I'm an only child, so we'll have my parents' stuff by then. Not much. A house and 200 acres. So, probably living in the middle of nowhere, trying to learn to feed myself with my own land, hoping savings gets me through. Story 7. I gave up on the notion of hefty nest egg for retirement, instead trying to see life more holistically by taking care of my stress, sleep, what I eat, and keeping relationships honest each day. I save where I can and try to work in places I don't hate. Plus, I can see myself working part-time during retirement out of sheer boredom. Story 8. I'm going to crochet the most obvious fake gun you've ever seen. Then I'm going to go to the bank and demand all their money. No one will shoot me because I'll look so ridiculous. But they'll send me to either prison or a state mental hospital. Either way, free room and board and 3 square meals a day sounds like retirement to me. Story 9. This is going to be unpopular, but my wife and I, early 30s, are well ahead on our retirement plan and should have the option to retire in our early 50s, even if we'd like to work longer. Assuming even moderate rates of return, I think there's a very good chance we get to our early 50s with 8 or 10 millers in overall wealth in a scenario where it could be 100% higher than that, depending on my career trajectory. This is excluding anything related to real estate, and also doesn't account for anything we may inherit from my wife's rather well-off parents, and assuming we get nothing from my very poor parents. We're very lucky to be in this position. Story 10. Same as it's always been. Save as much as you can now and live within your means so that you can actually retire. I know it's harder now than it used to be, but I don't think it's productive to be in the retirement. What retirement? Camp and just throw your hands up. Do what you have to do, even if it means downsizing your life a little right now. Get that 5-year-old Civic instead of a brand new Jeep. Live in that apartment for a while longer instead of buying the house you can't really afford. Don't eat out 5 nights a week. Contribute to your 401k if you have one, up to any company match. Then try to max out a Roth IRA. After that, start putting more in your 401k. Personally, I've got a small percentage in crypto that has done well over the years. But that's a high-risk one, and not for everybody. And if you can't do any of the above, try working on your career and find something that you're good at to make more money. Story 11. I'm a geriatric millennial, within the usual years for millennial, but right on the cusp of Gen X. But retirement looks pretty good for my wife and me. We're lucky to be working in high-paying fields, 6 figures, comfortable but not stratospherically rich. And we're contributing substantially to 401ks, U.S. tax-sheltered retirement accounts that you can set to automatically take a percentage of each paycheck. Provided we both keep our jobs or have layoff gaps no more than a few months and not both of us at the same time, and Trump doesn't tank the entire country, we should be in decent shape. We should have mostly paid off our house by then, and can live on retirement accounts even if Social Security gets completely canned. I expect to get a little something from it, but much less than I've been promised, so I'm trying not to rely on it. I have a lot of friends who aren't in nearly such good shape, though, and I spent a solid decade just barely getting by as a freelance musician, so I have a bit more of the paycheck-to-paycheck perspective and empathy than most folks doing comparably well. Story 12, I want to retire in my 40s in South America or Europe. I'm currently in my early 30s. My goal is to secure between 60 and 100 KOE income, shooting for 2.5 million in savings. I plan on selling my house to keep me afloat until I can start pulling from my retirement accounts and to have a fully paid off house abroad by the time I retire. Story 13, saved like crazy, made some good money moves, and lived at home during my 20s, and I just bought a house I'd be comfortable with till the day I die. Plan is to pay that off, continue to invest with my TFSA plus RRSP, and near the end of my career, switch to a public sector job with a pension plan for the final 5-10 years of my working life. Additionally, I'm very fortunate my wife and I both have parents who were good with money, so some inheritance money later on should help. I fully acknowledge that I'm very privileged, and this is not something most people were given the opportunity to have. I truly feel sorry for many of my millennial friends who most weren't given the same opportunities. I wish all of you the best of luck, really hoping the economy turns for the better and we can all flourish. Story 14, I've been maxing out my employer contribution to my 401k and throwing $50 a week into my Roth IRA. I was actually hitting my goal for on-time retirement in 30-ish years. But if we lose Social Security, I have no idea how I'm going to make up for lost time on the amount of investing it would take to make up the difference. I don't go on vacations or weekend trips. I just bought new pants for the first time in 3 years. I live a much smaller life than my peers. Grew up kind of poor, so I know how to stretch a dollar, but more importantly, how to deny myself. I shouldn't have to limit myself this much to live, nor should anyone else, but right now I have a survival mentality. Story 15, is retirement even real? I've heard dozens of stories of oldies retiring and going back to work because they can't afford it or are just plain bored. Maybe retirement existed when housing was affordable and salaries met inflation or were fair market price. But this isn't today's reality anymore. Retirement isn't even my concern. But will my kids be able to make it too? Story 16. In all honesty, very aggressive investment choices, like borderline dumb choices. I've only recently been in a financial state where I could save, and I'm 4-1. I'm also going to try doing some mega backdoor Roth stuff. It doesn't necessarily involve butt stuff, but I suppose it could be included. It's a way to raise your retirement savings quickly. For those that don't know, you can invest your HSA, Roth IRA, and traditional IRA into whatever the hell you want. HSA is the most flexible account type as it can be tax-free for medical and taxed after earnings like a traditional IRA. Max that shit out now. Story 17, I'm disabled. I have a terminal illness that is taking longer to kill me than anyone thought it would. I get $600 a month in disability payments and am only still alive because of SSI, SSDI, Medicare, and Medicaid. This administration thinks I should be dead. I'm starting to think they'll make that a reality soon, so I won't be retiring in the same sense as most others. Story 18. In between my contribution and my employer's, I put in 25% of paycheck into a pension account. It'll go up to 28% in April. I think 30 years of that will do. My fiance's parents are also wealthy, and there will be a significant inheritance one day, so even if I don't want to rely on it, that's a bit of a relief too. Story 19. Probably just keep investing money and not spending too much. Stay debt-free, of course. Keep maxing out my Roth IRA in addition to my other retirement accounts. Invest in index funds and keep that growing. Try to stay healthy and out of the hospital system. Enjoy my life in retirement as well. Play a lot of video games and hike and ski as long as my body holds out. I don't think it's worth stressing too much. As long as my basic needs are met, it will be fine. I might not even live to retirement anyway, so it's no use fretting about. Story 20. Retirement is death now. No one is actively fighting for the right to have one paycheck pay for a house. Until you get your shit together, the company owners will keep taking advantage until they physically can't anymore, then they will still blame you as the worker for it. I don't understand why more people my age aren't absolutely enraged we don't get the spending power our parents had. Story 21. Grim answers here. I'm planning on taking income I make off of my investment accounts, including retirement accounts. If you're reading this and you're a millennial, retiring is not unobtainable. Start investing now. The earlier you can start, the better. I really hate the narrative that we won't be able to retire because I think it ends up paralyzing a lot of people and stops them from saving. Story 22, I'm marrying into money, and that is allowing me to go back to college at 32 and have a higher paying career when I graduate and already have the house paid for. My in-laws are starting a retirement account for me. Before that, I grew up not knowing if the lunch lady was going to throw my lunch in the garbage can because my parents couldn't afford to pay that week. I joined the Navy and became independent the hard but reliable way. Got out and worked my ass off to pay rent until I lucked out. And no, I'm not marrying her for the money. Just really fortunate it's playing out really well there. Story 23, I made the cut and landed a good career job right out of college with a pension and good salary. Also made the cut in entering the housing market many years before it all went to crap, and I was able to keep one small property to rent. I also married someone that lives to work. It has its costs in other areas of life for sure, but I think it could enable me to retire around the time where I am eligible for full pension. I might have to stay a year or two longer, as it will be right around the time kids are in post-secondary. I feel for those that are 10, 15 years younger than me and never got a fair shot at the same opportunities. I have some friends that are in that boat. Story 24, inheriting from the boomers. Yes, I realize this puts me in a position of massive privilege. I do have enough money and a pension already that I'm not going to starve even if said boomers decide to leave the lot to Battersea Dog's home, which again is a privileged situation that has essentially only come about because one person in my marriage was fortunate to be born into a comfortable family. We've had help to buy a family home way back before the 2008 crash, without which we would probably still be renting. And the knock-on effect of being owners rather than renters is that we've been able to put money aside rather than lining the pockets of a landlord. I am grateful every day for our good fortune, and I make substantial efforts to share the wealth where I can through charity work and donations. I really feel for my peers who aren't as fortunate. It feels like millennials have had a pretty shit deal in many ways. Story 25. When I got my current job, all my boss ever wanted to talk about was how his retirement was coming up, and he was excited to travel the world with his wife and live out their lifelong dream. 2 weeks before his retirement, his wife's legs stopped working, and she was dead within 2 days of a random neurological disorder. He has been a completely different man since and canceled his retirement. I have no focus on retirement or really my career as a whole anymore. I'm going to work and take opportunities that present themselves, but the vast majority of my life's focus is enjoying life with my wife. Story 26, I will probably be well into my 70s before I retire, but I have this dream. I would love to live in an English village with those beautiful houses. I want to take care of roses and a big garden. I want to have a big kitchen with a fireplace and be finally able to read all those books that I have in my TBR list. I want cold, gloomy weather. I want snow. I want the full package. For more info, I am Greek and currently living in Athens. I have come to detest the sun and the heat so much. Story 27, should be making 110 kWh by time I'm 40, padding 2 retirement accounts a year, Roth and a medium risk, along with a CD and my 401k with my work matching. By 45, I'll be capped at 130, 140k YNR. I'm doing the steady-as-she-goes approach that I can retire by 68, 72, with a plan B and meeting up with a terminally ill chemistry teacher to start a drug empire if things fall apart. This is assuming my current trajectory of not remarrying, willingness to die alone with no kids, etc., etc. Story 28. Assuming both of my children, 3 and 11 aren't failures to launch, retire at 65, 66. My wife and I will hit 30 years with our jobs then, assuming no insane job loss or job hopping. We're both in very secure roles in heavily unionized environments. Our mortgage should be paid off in 15 years. Lots of assumptions. No critical illness, no disabilities, no job loss, no divorce, no deaths, no insane interest rate spike and earn 20%, etc. We want to garden, travel, read, continue being involved in our communities. Be grandparents. Seeing our boomer parents retire in misery, we know it's important to retire to something, not just from something. Story 29. I've been saving about 10 to 123% of my gross pre-tax income since I started working, percent fluctuating based on circumstances. Just turned 30 and have a little over 300k saved, invested across various retirement accounts and personal brokerage. At this point, I could pretty much never save another dime. And with a few decades of compound growth, I'd be able to retire very comfortably at a normal retirement age. I intend to keep saving, however, so that I am even better prepared for e.g. when I have a family, need to buy a home, etc., and hopefully will be able to retire a little early. I recognize that I am not the norm and had some advantages, like getting a decent paying job out of college, that made this more feasible. But the moral of the story remains the same. Get paid as highly as you can, live below your means as much as you can, invest the difference and start doing this as early as possible since time spent compounding is the biggest factor. Story 30. I can tell you one thing, don't oversave like a lot of people have done, and then realize when you get to be 80 years old that you have too much money, and what the heck are you going to do now? Don't forget to have life experiences while you're living life. That's very important. Don't save it for the maybes and one days, because you never know, they might not show up. Story 31, retire. I have been saving since I was 6 years old. It won't be a wealthy retirement, but it will be comfortable. I have a military pension as well, and I am now about 9 years away. Granted, I am Canadian, so I am reasonably certain my government is stable enough to be here in a decade. Story 32. Stop being so negative. Take advantage of tax-advantaged retirement savings plans. Yes, you can put money in a 401k or IRA. Yes, you can put money in a health savings account. Social Security plus your own 401k and IRA will make you very comfortable in retirement. That is, as long as you start young enough. If you start in your mid-50s, you're fucked. Story 33. Dependent on what my girlfriend wants as well, but ideally we will own a business that we can oversee but step back from the day-to-day of if we want. I'm also keen to invest in property and horses to have some assets we can play around with. I wouldn't mind owning a few racehorses and broodmares. I've worked in the racing industry for nearly 15 years. I'd quite like an active-ish retirement where we can enjoy traveling and holidays. Neither of us want children, so they aren't a factor. Story 34. I may be able to swindle a fire-type move in the next few years if I play my cards right. Won't be rich by any means, but will be able to live a financially independent lifestyle till I die. Or I work till I'm 55 and hope my pension is still around. Either way, I'm neither fucked nor rich, so I'm content. Story 35, dad's side. Grandpa died of pancreatic cancer. Grandma died of lung cancer. My father was diagnosed with diabetes. Mom's side. Grandpa died of diabetes. Mom died of lung cancer turned metastatic cancer. Grandma is surprisingly still alive. Track record suggests I'll either become diabetic or get cancer between 50, 60 years old, if lucky. So I think I'll just YOLO until something snaps and then proceed to YOLO myself off a bridge. Story 36. 2 pieces of advice from an old guy. Max out to your 401k. I know it hurts, Voot Value won't regret it, and open a cash value whole life insurance plan, not term. They are cheap when you're young, but can be really valuable as you approach retirement. Story 37. I plan on living a quiet life, living off of my retirement accounts, which I've been contributing to since I got my first job out of college. I know the stereotype is that millennials will never afford retirement, but the median person can fully replace their income by investing about 5% and 6% of their income in taking Social Security. It's really not that hard, especially if you start right after college. You are used to being a poor student. Even contributing 5 to 10%, you'll have a lot more money than when you were a student. Invest your money, even a little bit, from day one. Avoid lifestyle creep, and you'll never really have to worry about it. Story 38. The planned date right now is 9/20/34. I'll be 50, and my wife will be 45. I'm a regular old programmer, and she's a PT. We have 2 kids. If the numbers hold, we should have a paid-off house with all of our expenses covered by a conservative investment withdrawal rate, and our kids will each have $50,000 for college. This is assuming Social Security won't exist when we reach that age, even though it probably will. My plan when I'm done with my career is to spend time with my kids and work on all the side projects and hobbies that have been collecting dust over the years. We didn't do anything special. We bought a small house that we could easily afford and added on to if when we needed. We both drive 15-year-old cars. Just the basic how to save money stuff. Story 39, pay off my house between now and then, sell it, buy some really cheap studio, and put the rest in a monthly dividend-paying ETF. If I can get $2K a month from that, plus maybe another $2K from Social Security, I think I'll be okay. That and hope my kids make bank, and hopefully they can chip in and help. That would be a last resort, though. Story 40. To not. IDK if I'll have enough money saved. We do good, but we're a single-income household. But even that aside, what am I going to actually do in retirement anyway? Sudoku and die in 5 years. It's not like I'm pulling coal out of a mine. I send emails and make phone calls for Christ's sake. Story 41. I put away every penny I earned from 1621 into a diverse long-term investment portfolio, and I'm banking on watching it grow for the next 30 years and then living off that money. With any luck, I'll be able to retire 10 years early. but we'll see how that goes. Currently going back to school for medicine and hoping to be able to invest 25% of each paycheck. I'm currently living in an RV, 83 Sunraider, and when I eventually inherit my parents' property, I plan on selling it and investing the money and continuing to live in the RV. Story 42, I've decided that by the time I can mature, I'll have a broken body or mind. Therefore, I put the absolute minimum into my pension and everything I can into wide market ETFs so I can cash out whenever I want or need to. If I by some freak chance have all my wits and body by the age of 80, I hope the stock market still exists. Otherwise, I'll have some 40 years of underpaid work as a foundation for living frugal. Story 43, I put 20% of my income into my 401k, and my work matches 6%. I max those out every year and do a little bit of investing on the side once as well. I got a decent little nest egg built up. Nothing like where my parents were at my age, though. My parents were probably investing the same amount of money that I am, but they also got a fat-ass pension. So we are not the same, LOL. Story 44, I have 3 retirement plans. One is a tiny little self-funded retirement plan that I pay $50 from each of my 20 paychecks in a year. Another is a state pension retirement plan that takes around $250 from each of my checks. And finally, there is Social Security, which takes around $150 from each check. At age 57, I will reach 30 years in my employment to the state which will allow me to retire with the maximum pension I can receive. My state has a rule where if a retiree wants to continue working their job after taking their retirement, they are limited to working a very low amount of hours, roughly 20 per week, and if they go over, their pay is reduced by around half for any time over. However, if the retiree takes 1 full year off of the job they retired from, they are allowed to return as a full-time employee and not lose any of their pension. So I'll work till 57, retire on a maximized pension, take 1 year off and fund that year through the pension and draining the tiny self-funded retirement account as needed, return to work at 58 until I can collect Social Security, and then finally fully retire sometime in my 60s. The timing also happens to work out that my house will be paid off when I am 60, so I believe I can live quite comfortably for the rest of my days on a pension and Social Security with a paid-off house. Story 45, I'm 40. The number of people I've spoken to on this topic were Suis. DE is their answer is pretty staggering. The older generations don't get it. It will be an epidemic, and the sad truth is there will probably be a few companies that find ways to profit off it. Story 46. The S&P 500 grew 150% in 5 years. I plan on keeping investing for the long term and benefiting from market growth. It's honestly not rocket science, and I don't understand why people complain. It was real estate for Gen X, and it's stocks for this generation, and will probably rotate again. Just invest in something, anything. Yes, saving money is hard, but not impossible. Cut back in unnecessary costs. Story 47, putting almost half my income into my 401k, Roth, and company stocks. I work out now in hopes that I'll be still mobile and capable in my 70s plus. If I have a kid, I don't want them having to waste their life caring for me. I'm hoping to travel and just enjoy my hobbies. Story 48. I'm Gen Z and retirement for me seems difficult, but the comments here are overselling it a bit on the can't retire front. I obviously can't rely on Social Security, and pensions don't exist anymore, but I already have a decent amount saved up in my 401k. My plan is to eventually buy a house. This is the hardest part since house prices have never, ever been this high before, and despite my savings and decent pay, I still won't be able to afford one for a while and have it paid off by 65 years old. After that, shouldn't I just need enough banked away for food, bills, tax, ATM that would only amount to $15K a year? But I live in a H-call state, so I could move to a L-call state or country if it seems too daunting to live here in retirement. I don't see how it'd be a struggle to retire if I continue making the money I am. Story 49. My honest retirement strategy as future nurse anesthetist, work for 30 years or as long as needed, while maximizing contributions to a Roth IRA, 401k, and backdoor Roth. Invest an additional 5 to 15% of income into the market annually. Maintain rental properties as a source of income, and eventually sell them to fund retirement. Relocate to Europe for retirement using my EU passport and take advantage of the public healthcare system. That's what I've got so far as someone whose parents were not financially literate, and I'm learning as I go. Story 50, neurodivergent, high support, needs ASD millennial. No, I can only work until 40 or at most 50. Went to community college for 5 years all in, busted my ass to get scholarship to 4-year, and then a paid master's. Working in finance now and maxing out 401k and backdoor Roth every year. Just got a condo on a 15-year mortgage and on track to pay it off and early retire by 45 if I can push through it. Kinda sucks, but making the most of it. At least we'll get the expenses down enough. By then, I can survive on a lower skill. Part-time job. Story 51. All the upvoted answers are so tiresome. Same joke over and over. I'm 34 and somewhat trying my best to save for retirement alongside my wife. No kids helps. We will try to retire early as possible and just chill somewhere, living a humble but cozy lifestyle. Of course, life throws curveballs, so that's plan A. Who knows what else is in store? Story 52, I recently took a job being a bus driver in a major city. The retirement plan is actually good. They put in 9% with or without you matching it. They pay crazy good so I can put a ton in now to make up for lost years and increase as I go on. I'm going to be set up decent by retiring age, which is wild because I didn't think I'd ever have this. It should be the bare minimum, honestly. Anyway, unions are awesome and are the savior of the working class. Story 53, have kids and hope they like me enough to take me in if I make it to old age. Ha 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 ha. Realistically, I have a 401k and a savings account, and my parents' house is paid off and is part of my inheritance. Social Security is a big question if it'll be around in 30, 40 years, so yeah. Who knows? Story 54, born in 1991. I keep Dorster 3 months of rent, your expenses in an accessible bank account. Everything else is in a HISA. I max out a Roth IRA each year and have 10% of my gross salary going directly into a 401k with a 5% employer match. Beyond this, I don't really have a plan for retirement. Kinda just hoping that what I do now will snowball into making things less complicated when that time comes. Story 55, I have a 401k and a Roth, and I guess Social Security I'll theoretically be entitled to, but I am pretty sure I'll never see a penny of any of it. I'm trying to get back into shape, spending more time at the range, learning basic survival and farming skills, and the minute I'm diagnosed with a terminal illness, assuming I still have access to healthcare of any kind, I'm going to go out making a difference. Story 56, my parents dying first and leaving me everything. Also, I have a bunch of crypto I'm hoping moons by 2035. That could set me up nicely. I also own a home worth $600K that will sell to buy a small condo, putting the majority of the equity profit into our savings for retirement at that time. Story 57. Continue to work for my company that values my input and contributions and build wealth via my 401k and ESOP options. Ensure my company succeeds since I am a part owner like the rest of my coworkers. Can't rely on Social Security. So save money and invest wisely in order to have the freedom to settle down near family and enjoy sipping drinks by the pool in between time with kids, your grandkids, and activities me and the wife get up to. Continue engaging in my community I've built deep connections with and feel fulfilled supporting myself and family as well as my community. Mix in some with the wife from time to time. Story 58, we save a good chunk of our income. My job is Social Security exempt. My money goes into a self-directed account. I am personally thankful for this, as I don't trust that it will be a sustainable program the way the government talks about it. That being said, I worry about the sustainability of this system. I hope to retire in like 15 years, and in theory I can, but I'm not convinced our society will allow for it. Story 59. Sell my company and retire early, just a few more million to go. Building a company seemed like the only reliable way to buy a house and retire, given the cards we were handed post-financial crisis on top of housing crisis on top of job market crisis. Story 60, I live in a very low cost of living area. I pay $585 for rent with everything JB included. Yes, I really do. Currently working as an EMT, making anywhere between $3,500 and $5K monthly if I put in OT. No debt. I am going to school for nursing with grants and anticipating to get paid $45 an hour after I graduate. Currently putting in 15% ITI 401k through work. Do I hope to be extremely wealthy when I'm older? No, but I think I'll be all right. Ituation. Married, no kids. She saves 90% of her paycheck into savings. Story 61. I moved to a city that has affordable housing, got lucky with a good job and a pension, and I don't have kids. I have friends in a big city who still live with their parents because they can't afford their own place, but won't leave the city because they're close with their family. Story 62. I have been paying into a pension at my workplace, public state university, for the last 7 years. Need to reach a minimum of 8 years to be vested and receive a payment upon retirement. Any years paid in beyond 8 just adds to the amount for the payment I receive. I also stash money in a Roth IRA when I can swing it. Been doing that since I was 24. Best I can do is plan, keep debt to a minimum, Don't spend like a madman, invest whatever I can, and hope for good market conditions. No clue what they'll do with Social Security, but I'm expecting it'll probably end up privatized because this is America. Story 63. I know Reddit hates to read positives in these kids of threads, but I have been contributing to my 401k and Roth since I had my first salary job at 22, and my firm is an ESOP that gives stock in terms of retirement funds as bonuses. I have about $250K in my retirement accounts at the age of 29 right now, and that will hopefully only continue to grow. My month-to-month expenses are still very hard, and I am essentially living paycheck to paycheck, and that is what worries me. Getting fired would kill me. But retirement is not really my concern since I think I am handling that properly. Story 64. Lots of people in here expecting that work will even exist in the near future. The sad truth is that the billionaires who run this country will soon no longer need our labor, and they've made it very clear that they have no interest in our continued survival. I expect most of us to die from preventable diseases and malnutrition. Story 65. I literally don't have one. I had a 401k for a while, but never really had a job that contributed, and neither did I. I live off poverty wages, paycheck to paycheck, and I'm technically homeless. I've been saying for, around 20 years now, my retirement plan is to die. I genuinely 100% believe that by the time I hit retirement age, the world we're in is going to be vastly different. Kind of a hellscape. I think most people around my age will die in their early 60s. Story 66. Considering things are really not like they used to be, the assumption that saving for retirement will yield positive results, allowing us to retire like our parents did, is not a safe one. In reality, the US dollar will likely collapse, as will society as a whole, and by our retirement age, the concept of stable, safe living situations at all will be kind of unusual and reserved for only the wealthiest people. The average person will be struggling to survive and find clean drinking water, without the knowledge or skills to do so adequately. Humans will begin to become victims of the mass extinction they have caused within our lifetimes. I'm sure of it, and will ultimately succumb to it completely within the next couple hundred years if we're lucky. Good news for the planet, bad news for us. So anyway, yeah, I'm probably not going to retire. I'll likely die before I get that old. Story 67, aggressively saving. Have both 401k and Roth IRA going. Luckily, we bought a house before prices became insane. My wife has a high-paying job, so we're going to start other savings things with our financial advisor here shortly. With how expensive everything is getting, who knows if this will even be enough. Would like to leave our kids something decent, or at least not become a financial burden. Story 68, I'm 42, have about $150K in 401k and stocks, professionally managed. I make about $65K a year, and my partner owns our home. I have about $30K in credit card debt, and still paying loans on top of that. I genuinely don't feel like I'll be able to retire until I'm in my 70s at least. It's crippling. We're also having to think about moving to Canada as we are not safe under this regime. And I'm devastated that I don't think I'll live to see the kind of life my mom wanted for me. Story 69. I was asked this question by my IFO at one of our previous meetings, and my response was to die. He chortled, paused, and then realized I was deadly serious. He was like, wait, what, really? I was like, listen, the current retirement age in this country is 66. By the time I actually reach retirement age, it'll be at least 68, likely higher. I abused this body like a free amusement park for the best part of 2 decades. I ain't seen 60, never mind 70. Story 70, I lucked out pretty big. No college or school, career technician. I have worked for several fusion companies and gotten fairly large chunks, tens of thousands of shares, of stock from both companies, which is my pipe dream. I have also worked for Microsoft, Boeing, and SpaceX, and managed to get pretty decent amounts, thousands of shares for each company in those as well. Story 71, you're getting a lot of the classic I'm a millennial and everything is unfair and terrible, which it is. But here's my real answer. I'm saving like crazy and doing everything in my power to buy a place here in California, where there is a law on the books that means your property tax won't go up from the amount charged at purchase as long as ownership is retained. I'm not looking at a specific time to buy because ultimately, inflation and time are going to increase housing prices. So if I plan to hold for life, ideally 40 plus years, my mortgage and property taxes are going to seem like a huge value in 15 to 20 years, if not sooner. With that in mind, the house I want would be a modest, single-story 2-bedroom with a detached studio apartment that would serve as an office while I'm working and become a rental unit when I'm old and need care. At that point, the house should be paid off, and the rent can help pay for living care if I need it. The mini goal I have is that I'm comfortable enough from my retirement savings that I don't need the rent, and because I don't have kids, I can put all the rent I collect into a fund. If I pass while my renter is there, I hope to give them their money back with interest so they can have a nest egg to buy their own home. My property will be left to my nephew. Story 72. We scraped together a down payment and bought a house. We made it the priority. Then my wife managed to get a union job with a state pension in a blue state. Again, we have made that house and job a major priority, built a lot around it. Any savings or Social Security or whatever is left after SS gets burned to the ground will be a bonus on top of the paid-off house plus pension. Story 73. I'm doing better than most, assuming nothing unexpected happens and derails my career. Gestures broadly to the state of the world. I'm on track to retire at a normal age, but I'll probably end up hitting mid-60s and maybe going down to part-time or changing to something else entirely. I don't think we were meant to just stop working and do literally nothing, so I'll probably keep working to some degree for the rest of my life. Story 74. Grew up poor, but I've been saving since I started working at 22. I got lucky to find a mentor who saw something in me and pulled me from a warehouse job to a desk job, which led to me starting my own business with no outside help. Currently have a good nest egg built up and am hoping to sell my business in the next few years for enough to retire by 40. Story 75. I fully expect that as I age, the age of retirement will increase to the point where I am either unable to retire at all or can do so for such a short amount of time that the only activity I will be permitted to enjoy is dying in poverty. I'm sure the pension scheme I pay into will be fairly redistributed to the billionaire class. Story 76. Millennials are towards the end of their most important year for retirement prep. 22 to 26, work some jobs to figure out what you like and what career you want to pursue. 26-35, establish your career, grow your income, spend money on what brings you joy, and save as much as possible. 35 to 50, maintain the percent of income you are saving. 50 to 60, decrease your retirement contributions, start spending on bucket list items. 60 to 65, remove some risk from investment portfolio. 65 plus, add risk if your life allows it. If you are relatively healthy, do you have your good insurance? Your kids have graduated and are starting their own careers. You are living on less than 5% of your retirement per year. Add some risk back to your portfolio. Story 77. There are a lot of things in this world that are engineered to take your money. A big part of surviving it is living significantly below your means. I make 6 figures, but I live like I'm making 35K. Even after heavy investment into retirement savings and any loans I may have, of the remainder, my living expenses are still less than 1/4 of that remaining take-home. That is the single biggest component of this whole game. Scale down the biggest chunks of your expenses. College is unfortunately necessary. Paying of those loans is annoying and long. You don't get to have everything, let alone immediately or possibly for 20 years. A fast track is dual income. Think about marriage. Ideally, a fellow college student with a great degree. If some burdens can be shared, it gets you ahead faster. Seriously think about supplemental income. Apply college skills to a small side hustle. Wages age relatively stagnant, so this is one of the few ways to pull in more. And if you don't pull in more, you need to spend less. Story 78. I bought my first house, lived in it while I fixed it up, sold for a profit, living in my second home and working to sell it for more profit. Take my equity, get a bridge loan before I sell it, buy a lot and build a house, live there for 4 or 5 years and get another bridge loan to build my forever home. Once done, sell the last house, pay off loan, and have a $500K house completely paid for. Take equity and buy other flip houses and quit working as a contractor for other people and just flip 1 or 2 houses a year for the rest of my life. I'll never fully retire until my health determines it because I can't sit still. Story 79, Lemiao, edit. In all honesty, it's likely I'll be moving to my parents' country of origin to live like a prince. I speak the language and English is widely spoken too, know their customs, and have a dual citizenship. Financially, I'm on pace to retire early in my late 40s if I go this route. That's keeping me going. I refuse to burn my life savings to live in the overpriced social shithole that the United States is at the moment. Some don't have a choice, and I pity them. Story 80, throw 10% to 15% of my any income I make into max matching 401k. Then I max out Roth IRA. That's usually closer to 20%. But I still throw $100, $200 into S&P mutual fund, which I took out a week after the Orange Man and Muskie came into office because I am hopefully buying a house this year. I still don't make enough for 6+ years experience in marketing, but I am good at saving at least. Story 81. Well, hopefully I'll have a forever home currently on house number 4, and I know we'll have to sell again in 3 years, so I keep restarting on 25-year mortgages. That's mostly paid off by then, which I can sell and use to live after having retired around 65, 70 with 45, 50 years at my job. It's a defined benefit pension. I've been putting away 1% income in RSP. If the above doesn't work, I'll be too old to care. The government's problem, I hope. That's if the world doesn't end by then. Story 82. My country has a mandatory Social Security program for retirement. They take out 9% of my salary monthly, and when we retire, we get 75% of our last salary as a monthly pension. I'm considering a retirement insurance protection program through my bank, which, if I understand correctly, you pay them a fixed monthly amount, and they use it in safe investments, and you get the profits at the end of the program, 40 wires or so. And if the investment profits are low, there's a minimum they have to pay you. But I don't trust them 100% not to steal my money somehow. Story 83, I think I'll be set. My dad preached financial responsibility, so I've been saving since day one. I'm 40, have no debts besides my mortgage, have $120K in my private retirement at my current company, $350K in my old one, and about $20K I'm not touching in other funds. My apartment will be paid off by then, so adding interest, I should have a decent retirement set up. I know that's not normal anymore, but I had a huge advantage because I graduated with a master's debt-free.